Welcome back. I'm sitting here in Kaitoke at Kaitoke School with Constable Kylie Robbins, and we've just been practicing community policing. Now, Kylie, you've been telling me that community policing is really a trend that's really developed a little bit more in the recent years. When you first started policing, now that would have been your senior constable, that's well over 14 years ago. You said you started in lower house. What was policing like then, and how has it changed since?
Policing's changed a lot over the years. Community policing, or the idea of community policing, was just starting to come in a few years after well, probably 3 or 4 years after I started in the job, and it's it's an aspect that the police are really pushing, and you know I agree with it very much. It's you can't police without the community's consent, and you can't be separate to the community. You need to be part of the community. You need to listen to community concerns, and that's very much what policing is about these days. Is it's far more, not to say that it wasn't ever professional, but they're far more streamlined. They're far more professional, and they're far more focusing on the community as a whole, as opposed to police trying to stand outside of it and just being the person in authority that stands outside of the community and just deals with its issues there. Now we're part of the community, and that's the way it should be.
Has that gone hand in hand with other trends in the community in terms of how communities think about their safety, how involved they are with the police and other institutions? What kind of changes have you seen around you?
I think, yeah, that is certainly what the police are looking to do, and you see in our things that we read, our magazines that come out, police magazines, etc. Lots of effort being put into places like, for instance, South Auckland, where they want the police not just to be based at a central police station where it can be quite intimidating for people, but they want to have local community police actually on the beat or out in their communities where people can pop in to have a cup of tea with them if necessary. And it's a question of manpower quite often, and I'm not going to get into the politics of it, but you need your police to be available, and you need them to be approachable, and you need them to be professional, and to have police actually in the communities is really important for that, and it does make people feel safer. And at the end of the day, that comes through loud and clear in any of the research that they do, that when people can see a police officer around, they feel safer. That when they feel that they can go to their local police station and discuss their issues and be listened to in a professional and understanding way, then they feel better about their communities and their safety and policing as a whole.
Now, government in general over the last years, decades, has gone through a whole process of devolution, as it's called, and part of that goes with the idea that people and citizens should be more involved in the rules that apply to them, so that there's consultation about district plans, etc. Now, while laws that are being set in Parliament are, of course, also open to public comment, at your level, is there more engagement with communities, for example, to set about priorities where police should be seen, or what issues should be brought up, or how awareness should be driven? Is there things where you feel there is actually feedback coming back from the community that is relevant to the police?
Yeah, very much so. I know that the local bodies, the local community board, etc., is quite often asked for its opinion, and a number of local groups are asked for their opinion, particularly with things. And the recent example is the liquor laws. There was very much community consultation around the liquor laws and what people saw as priorities and how they wanted things changed. So it's not just done by some faceless bureaucrat standing there saying that this is what we need or this is what we want. Now, these things are going out into the communities to be discussed before the rules are made.
And with policing in general, can you sort of, if we've sort of been talking about your career and your experience in the history of well over a decade, quite a bit long actually, of policing, does it allow you to sort of also look forward and say, okay, this is where policing is heading, this is where community is heading? Can you sort of forecast and do a bit of crystal ball gazing for us?
Um, bringing it back to Great Barrier Island, well, policing in general I think is heading in the right direction. Obviously there's always the odd whinge that we might have, but in general I think policing is definitely headed in the right way, with consultation with the communities and making sure that we as police are doing what the community as a whole wants, not just the odd person who squeaks louder than anybody else, but what the community as a whole want, what they see as their priorities. In terms of the island, it's we often talk about that. We often think it's sort of try and figure out which way the island's going to go, but it's so much a matter of how things transpire for the whole island in terms of, are the families going to continue to move off? Are more families going to come over? Is the land, are we going to end up like a mini Waiheke Island where people have holiday homes and not much else, or which way it's going to go? I'd like to obviously see it remain as a brilliant community the way that it is. I think though that on the island, we've felt so safe out here for so long in terms of we don't have the crime issues that you have in town, because the island tends to look out for each other. So you don't have the same issues with burglaries and thefts from cars and that sort of thing that they will have in town. In fact, quite often we will see something as a big issue over here, and when we discuss it in town, our superiors are just laughing at us because we see one burglary as a real issue, and they're attending 20 and 30 in a day, and they think one is just ridiculous. But those things will start happening and have started happening to a certain extent out here. So, people are going to have to accept that we may be way later than the rest of the country in getting to some of these issues with thefts and burglaries and violence and drugs, for instance, but they will quietly filter in here unless the entire community really stands strong on some of these things and takes a community stance on it.
Well, Constable Kylie Robbins, thank you very much for speaking to us here on RTFM, and I look forward to having another session of the 7 Seas activities here at Kaitoke School with you again next week. Thank you.
You're welcome.